come through the thoughts. And if you don't have any thoughts about sobriety, you're in the habit of being sober, there you go. You have a nice immunity. Yeah.
In a way, they rest in the pause, huh? In a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Just like you were in the habit of getting loaded. That was a hard, yeah. It's
Yeah.
hard to break that habit.
Yeah.
And we can't. Yeah. That's the solution, is to admit that. Yeah. And what we can't do alone, we can do together. So you can stay sober together. Yeah. Yeah. If not, you'll be drinking alone. Usually that's how it ends up, eh?
That's right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to say that the most important word in the steps is the first word of the first step. We.
Yeah, for sure. Because of the problem, which is me. Yeah, that's you just turn the M around upside down. Now you have we. Yeah, there you go.
So clever.
The solution's right in the problem. Just turn the M. Now you have we instead of me. It's just, yeah, the head is obsessed with this idea, obviously. Yeah, and trying to get relief from that through the head is obviously pointless. But for us to get that, you usually have to have tried over and over and over again. Yeah. But it's truly, I have, there's a lot of problems come up, but I'm not living under the cloud of the problem, which is active addiction or alcoholism. So, yeah, you can face life successfully. It's really amazing, the solution, the effects of it, because like in my case, I sort of was struck sober, and that wouldn't have lasted long. I believe it wouldn't have. I've stayed sober, but that it was like a solar flare off the moon came down and hit me. Then I had to get a nice sunny place, which was recovery. So that problem was a fucking nasty one. Yeah. Mm. Mm. So who's running the show today?
I am today, Paul. Got a reading for you if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
All right.
This is not an AA meeting, and
Yeah, I got you. Just let me mute everybody. Just don't take offense, y'all. Okay, Paul, you can unmute. All right. Hey, everybody. My name's John. I'm alcoholic. And this is not an AA meeting. It's Paul's take on the 12 steps. It's a good meeting of recovery. It's not a technical AA meeting, but it's a good meeting. So just sit back and, rest in the peace and enjoy. We got a reading from the big book. I selected Paul, page 46 in the chapter, We Agnostics.
yep.
Got it? Okay, good. It's at the last paragraph. It's a short reading, just a paragraph. It says, much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe, underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. We found that God does not make too hard of terms to those who seek him. To us, the realm of the spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. It is open, we believe, to all men. And that's it, Paul. Over to you.
Well, thanks, John, and welcome everyone. If you're new, this platform is just based on emphasizing a recognition of the exact nature of the wrong in the big book itself, which is on page 64, around the third paragraph, just before they go into the inventory. It basically states being convinced, which if you've been introduced to recovery, you know that that is a living requirement, especially in the beginning of the program of recovery. So being convinced, one of the definitions of that is to believe with certainty. So to believe with certainty, or being convinced, self manifested in various ways, is what has defeated us. So it's a very clear statement. In English, there's a separation of the defeated and the defeater, and the defeated is not the defeater. That's the importance of the revelation here, is that which has defeated us is more like a disease or a flu. It's not you. Yeah. And so if your condition changes, the possibility of coming down with the flu will change. Yes. So either we're in a very inviting aspect for the flu to move into, or we're not, based on our condition, our immunity, whatever. And it says, if you are convinced of this, that self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us, we will now look at its, meaning self's, common manifestations. So basically, how we see self is through looking at its manifestations in our life. And then the next paragraph starts with the word resentment. So resentment, in this view, is a manifestation of self in one's life. So if self is running the show, you're probably going to harbor a lot of resentments. Yeah. And so it's a way of diagnosing the problem by its fruits, so to speak. So we do an inventory of resentments, and we do an inventory on fear. And really, fear is what's triggered, but what's causing the trigger is not an apparent threat, it's mental anxiety, yeah, or faith in the mental state. So the head is telling us someone is out to get us, who is not out to get us, but we believe fervently that someone's out to get us, because there's great faith in the thoughts, and the thoughts are infected with the disease of self and the disease of alcoholism. So the thoughts really are the way the disease activates our actions and our regrets and stuff like that. So we're going to look at the common ones of how we've been defeated by self. Resentment, fear, and harms done to others in the pursuit of what we want. And so we look at the sexual arena. So what you were driven to do. How many people maybe had moral issues about marriage, yet they slept with the husband or the wife? Yes. So this is the moral issues and the philosophy weren't sufficient to cause a different kind of behavior. Something has taken us over. Yep. And it's using us. And so we want to see how it uses us through its manifestations. And maybe if we recognize they're not ours, we may be able to travel lighter through the program of recovery and put resentment in its rightful place, which is it's not yours. It's a resentment. It's fear. It's harm done to others. The idea of that it's you is how the fucking bondage continues. Yeah. I mean, if you look at resentments, when they trigger on the highway, they may last one exit or two exits on the freeway. But when called my resentment, they could last 50 years and then end you up in jail for a fucking couple years. So the difference between resentment and my resentment is huge. Same thing with fear, my fear, same thing, harms, my harms. And this is where you see really where the bondage is. The bondage isn't in the manifestations, it's triggered by the manifestations because we keep calling them ours. Yeah. So we're bound to a manifestation of self because we take it to be ours. And if you want a simple evidence of that, how do you speak about a resentment? You usually call it yours. Yeah. So there you go. You don't have to go to a fucking specialist in a cave in Tibet. You can look at it very simply. Yeah. When you're yapping about stuff, fear, resentments, harm other people, you believe it's yours. And there's a mistake right there. Actually, stated in the big book, they're not yours, they're selves. Yeah. And it's been made clearly defined that self and us are different. Yeah. Us is us and self. And the funny thing is, it doesn't say selves have defeated us, it says self has defeated us. So self is a singularity in a certain mental condition, and it infects the plurality. Yeah. And how it keeps affecting the plurality is it has a chameleon-like move, which is the plurality keeps calling themselves self. That's a dilemma. Yeah. And the defeat looks quite similar. If you did a sociological study, like in NA, they did in a way, they said, hey, we end up in 3 parking spaces: institution, jails, and death. So here's all these different cars with all these different drivers, but they end up at the same place. Yeah. There's the driver has made a mistake. It's the driven. And there is a driver that's driving all of us, and we're positioned as the driven. I think it's important to realize that. Yeah. It's funny in hindsight. It wasn't funny before. So well, I just wanted to point that out as the platform for this event. So much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider someone else's conception of God. Now, I humbly believe this is an introductory understanding of your own about the higher power. And then in time, it's going to change naturally. And usually I feel it will change to you're going to have a higher power of its own understanding. This isn't meant to be the way it goes for the whole program. As you can tell, it says basically it's like the beginning to get you in the door, because we're so sick of other people's idea of God being presented to us. We have the opportunity, well, make your own God. Have your God of your own understanding. I don't believe it stays that way. Yeah. I believe you realize how limited your understanding is. And why would you want to frame that unlimitedness with a limited understanding? So let's go, hey, I surrender my understanding and I want to have a higher power of its own understanding. And now the higher power will express or reveal to me its own understanding, not having to go through the filter of my understanding, which is I got a parking space in front of the meeting. I got a date with the girl I've been ogling from the fuck afar at the book study. No, another type of something, yes. I humbly feel that. And I think in other places they talk about it. Because the way I heard it when I came in AA, it was sort of like, oh, you're going to have a God of your own understanding, like forever. That didn't last. It lasted a couple of weeks because of the relief I was getting. I did not understand how I was getting this relief or how something was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I could not understanding how it was working. So that put me into an I don't know, and I felt that's a much healthier place. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. If I need to know, let me know, basically. Yeah. And I I leave that to the higher power. Yeah, so that's my humble thing with this. So but basically it's saying God, our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach. It's not the fucking approach. Yeah. The approach is going to come about through contact with God, which it says next. Yeah. So it goes, our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with him. Yeah. And then something's going to change. And probably what's going to change is your conception of God or higher power. Why? Because you're going to be under its influence. You're not going to be speaking about God from your influence. You're going to be speaking about this higher power based on its influence in your life, because you're going to have results. Yeah. That's what step 2 seems to me is an observational step. It says we came to believe, so it's already happened. We came to believe that something could do for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. Consider dealing with the insanity that preceded the first drink. Yeah. So I observed that I had been sober 8 weeks. That was my step 2. It was. I observed I hadn't drank in 8 weeks. That was a long time coming. And therefore, and then immediately that moved me to step 3. And I was sort of keen on step 3 because I had surrendered to many things already in life. Surrendered to the cops, surrendered to drugs, surrendered to Delancey Street for 2 years. Yeah. I saw the power of surrender, but really the effect of the surrender is going to be what you surrender to. And I really feel like the surrender to the higher power has been the greatest movement in the action figure life. It really has. Yeah. Delancey Street was a movement. Going to jail maybe started to convince me of shit. But the greatest effect of surrender was the 3rd step of recovery. It just has been. Yeah. So then he goes, or they go, yeah, and to effect a contact with him, as soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe, underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction. Exactly. We're starting to be driven by something else than the old driver. Yeah. And where we're going to go is going to be different than where the old driver always took us. Yeah. And we're going to know the new employer by its effects. Being all powerful, it's going to take care of us, and it goes off on it. Yeah. Yeah. So we found that God, whatever you want to call it, higher power, does not make too hard terms with those who seek him. It's innocent, but some people, when they get ready to meet their God, they're the ones that put out the incense, the music, the candles, the nice pillow. I mean, it seems like the meeting of God is all based on our requirements. Yeah. If you lost interest in your requirements, you may find that it's always available at all times, right where you are, with no requirement necessary to meet it. Wow, that seems to be a lot more efficient than I have to prepare the meeting room. I don't know. I like it. I mean, it's a nice thing to do. It's expressive, but there is a weird thing in it that, I'm setting up the conditions and the requirements to meet God. I would think that's something in me playing God, concerning God. Yeah. And I want to quit that playing God. It doesn't mean the playing God quits. It doesn't. The head plays God. I just quit shooting up the head's playing God. Yeah. I quit being interested in it. I do. I lose interest in it. And now it keeps talking like it's in a GPS role, but I'm not taking any of its directions. Yeah. I just don't. So, but it keeps telling me the scenic route or something, and I know what's fucking in store for me, but it keeps playing. It doesn't seem to shut off. but I'm not listening to it. I have quit listening to that GPS. Yeah. So these are real actions you can recognize. I thought quit playing God was I had to quit playing God, as if I was the one playing God. That's a huge mistake, I feel. That's a huge misunderstanding, I feel humbly. Yeah. I believe the head, which this aspect of it, which is foreign to you, is playing God. Yeah. Your thing is to recognize you're not that which is playing God. And that will trigger a losing of interest in it. Yeah. That's humbly how I saw it through like reverse engineering. I did believe when I came in, I was playing God. And it was sort of a drag. I got another fucking order. I've got to quit playing God, where I always seem to fail. I'm going to fail again. And then I realized in time, I'm not that which is playing God. Yeah. Because it sure sounds like the playing God is talking to someone in the audience. It seems to be talking. There's someone home that its feed is turning on the TV for. Yeah. And I would say I am the silent majority. I am in that us. Yeah. And the head's trying to convince me as one of the us to listen to its story. Yeah. And to sign up and subscribe to it. And actually, if I follow it, fuck, then I'm in trouble. Yeah. But you know, when you try to cancel a subscription on Amazon, it's quite different. It's difficult. You know, they use different words, a periodic review. And no, you just want to hit the cancel button, but it takes a while to get there. The head is a similar thing. It just keeps playing God. Yeah. I found out, fuck it, there's a lot of comedy value in it, really. So, yeah. I tune into it like the Daily Show with Jon Stewart or the Colbert Report. It's sort of fucking funny, its view, because its view is very, very what? Self-centered. Yes, extremely. Yeah, it can't help itself. So, yeah. So let me just finish this, if you don't mind. Again, that new sense of power and direction, that's described in the third step. Provided we took other simple steps. What are they? The steps, the 12 steps. Yeah. And then the principles. We found that this power does not make hard turns with those who seek him. So if there's hard terms, you got to realize that's that which is playing God about the God idea. Yeah. See, this is one thing I disagree with the book when it says you can't give something that you don't have. I believe you have it by giving it away. I do. I believe it's basically we're like a spigot and the water is ready to come out, you know? The water is there even if when the spigot is off. Obviously, you found that out when you try to fix your fucking sink without turning off the water. The water comes out when you take the screw off and you're surprised. I thought I had it on off. Yeah, but the water is there. Yeah. So this is the thing here. We're dealing with the spigot. We're not dealing with the water. The water is readily available. Yeah. Readily available. And the water doesn't have an on and off. It's just there. Yeah. And for some reason, the head has taken us over, and we've been in the off position for that spiritual water to flow. It's not like it's not there. It's there, all built up, all ready to roll, but we're in the off fucking setting. Yeah. Now, we found that we seem to end up being powerless to this off setting, so we need something to come in and change those settings so that we can now access that higher power and sense that power come in, have conscious contact with presence, learn we can live, life successfully. All these things are readily available. We just need to have the off switch moved, and we can't do it. And that's the admittance that allows it to be done. Yeah. So now I hope all of us are feeling something come through, a new power, a sense of present. Yeah, all that's available. Yeah. So all the requirements usually are coming from us. And to me, a lot of that is the head playing God with God. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if I admit defeat, it's not like the cavalry rushes in. It's been sitting, waiting for me. It's not like it's far away. I got to make a call. No, it's just been waiting. It's been in a pause, waiting for me to be paused, Yeah. So that's how I see it today. Anyone, is that all right, John? Covering that?
Yeah, that's awesome, buddy. Yeah, if you want questions, if you want to ask Paul a question or have a share, use the raise hand feature at your bottom taskbar, and yeah, we'll let you in and listen to what you got to say. Got a Ryan from Phoenix, Paul. Come on in, Ryan.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, buddy, you there?
Okay. So, if if I'm looking for, if I am what I'm looking for, why do I pray? Like my sponsor tells me to pray, which I think is, it's funny to me, but it doesn't really make too much sense. Why am I praying to something that I am? Is it useful? Like it doesn't make
Can be
any.
useful, yes, it can be useful because the action figure is not sharing completely the message that there is no action figure. Yes? So the action figure does a whole lot better with the idea of surrendering to something greater than itself than that there is no action figure. Yeah. So the 12-step program is actually for the action figure to allow some of what its true nature is to come into the action figure world. It's not about the action figure turning into a spiritual thing. It can't. It's an action figure. Yeah. It does shit. It takes ownership. It feels uncomfortable when it seems to blow something, and it gets pride when it does something else. So the idea of saying, first of all, if you go to an AA meeting, you say 2 prayers right there and then. In the beginning of most meetings, there's a prayer, and at the end, there's a prayer. So I never pray. Well, we do actually, if you go to a live meeting. Yeah. But to me, like I have a 50 Chevy truck. Yeah. Is it practical? Mostly not. Yeah. Really. You could look at it and go, why put any gas in that? It's going to eat up the gas because of something. Yeah. It's 74 years old. It's made it through 74 years dealing with humans, which is fucking unbelievable. It's still in one piece. Yeah. And I have a liking to curate it and allow it to keep going. So I put gas in it. I truck around in it. Does it have, I mean, the only thing that allows it to drive well with other cars is the other car drivers are super afraid of getting hit by it because it's all fucking metal and they're plastic. So it's like when a big elephant comes to a pond of hippos, the hippos move away because the elephant is a big elephant. Same thing with the truck. So, and just like I have pictures of Buddha around. It's a joy as an action figure to bow down and be humble. I mean, why would I want to take that away with an absolute idea of there is no action figure? Yeah, so there is no action figure. And yet there seems to be an appearance and there's experiences, and some action figure do better when they pray than when they don't pray. Yeah, they just do better. Yeah, and the use of prayer in my life has dwindled a lot since, but thank God there was a serenity prayer when I got into AA. Yeah, because At that point, the action figure was stopping and going and stopping and going, and it was just really, it had been fucked over by what had been driving it. Yeah. So, and yeah, why would I want to take away the joy of admitting my smallness to something that's bigger? Yeah, fucking, it's great. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not looking for any answer to a prayer. It's more of an expression if I use it. Yeah.
So like, like I like to do breath work. It feels good.
Then do breath work.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have to go through fucking some things are not meant to be thought about much. If they're working, do them. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they'll sooner or later they'll change. They probably will. And then you'll find something else that works. And maybe you'll find nothing works really good. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The action figure has its limitations. What the spirit can understand through you, you cannot understand as an action figure. The action figure is defined by programming. It's not AI. It's not growing in understanding. It hits its ceilings many times. Yeah. And it doesn't need to be punished that it can't reach that far. It's more of an expression and an observation. It's not the main cause of this whole event. As someone was talking about before, a magnet. You know, these frequencies and vibrations are much more influential than the things that are moving around in skin bags and stuff. Yeah, really, it's true. And our inherent nature is not of a thing, and it's allowing all of these appearances to move and everything, and to have this sort of thing you call a life. When the existence leaves, you can have the body exactly like it was when it was animated. Yet you'll look at that body and you'll never call it the person you used to call it for 70 years, because you see the spirit, the real life of the thing has left. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel the action figure, there's two meals going on. Yeah. There's French fries and shit on one side, and then there's a very subtle, when you used to go to try to, impress a girl, you'd go to like a French restaurant, and the servings were so fucking small, and you were paying like that time like $50. You're like, what the fuck? I'm getting like 2 cranberries and a fucking fungi or something, or a toad leg. I said, shit, it never made no sense to me. So exactly, the action figure gets fed in a different way than a spirit does. The action figure needs purpose. Action figure needs community a lot of time, or at least some kind of rubbing shoulders with others. It has a lot of its own needs that are not spiritually based. Yes. Yeah. The spirit doesn't need to be fed. The action figure needs to be fed. Yeah. Yeah. The spirit needs to be recognized. That's all. Yeah. We're either unconscious to it or we're conscious to it. Yeah. To me, that's the difference between traveling lighter and traveling heavy. Many of us we're all awake, but we're not awake to that. Yeah. We're walking around thinking this and thinking that, but it doesn't change the fact that we are spirit. Yeah. Now, if you can come to some kind of recognition, you can't understand it, you can't know it, but you have a sense you are it, then that's that recognition of spirit. Now you're awake to being awake. Yeah. And that awakeness goes a long way of really allowing the action figure to get calmed down and not to be stirred so much by the mental activity, which it is usually. Yeah. And the action figure doesn't, it's like a Toyota. It's not meant to be a chariot of the gods. It's here, it's functional, it's doing its thing, and it can be happy with quite a little. Yeah. 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 It doesn't need what the head thinks it needs. So, yeah. So a lot of people get these ideas, which are beautiful ideas like non-duality, but the head claims them and tries to use them in a weird way of, well, there's nothing, if there's no you, then there's no alcoholic, and then you have a drunk non-dualist. Yeah. Yeah. So we're just I've swam those waters. I've swam those waters. And this is what I can tell you from crawling up on a shore. Yeah. Yeah. This idea of absoluteness doesn't work, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You
I
have
guess.
to, yeah, render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, as Jesus supposedly said. Yeah. It wasn't like there is no Caesar. He said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto the other power to that. Yes. So,
Right.
yeah, I feel there's a balance you'll find.
Yeah.
We
I
make
guess.
stupid mistakes. As long as you stay sober, fantastic. You make tons of mistakes. That's how we learn. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess there was a little bit of fear that maybe the self was, trying to transform itself into a new version and tricking me to go, and you maybe trying to use different things like spirituality, for instance. I see a lot of people get lost in that world, and it's almost like a new version of the self. It is a new version of the self, but they're still like under the anesthesia of the self. So I guess there was a little bit of fear there that, oh, is myself transforming into someone who likes to breath work, and now I pray, and right, and I'm gonna be under the drug of the
But
self.
we have an understanding now to see it. And so, like in AA, it says quite a lot. A lot of the conditions we find ourselves in is without knowing it. Yeah. So without knowing a lot of stuff. So one of the things we do here is we attempt to share understandings about knowing. Yeah. So because there's usually a whole lot of descriptions that come after the sentence that starts with without knowing it, all this shit went on. So instead of going through all that shit, why not change the without knowing it? So with knowing it, I don't believe all that shit will go on, or it will, but it will be minimized because you won't be the fuel it's using to demonstrate its flamboyance. Yeah. That will be already be given to the presence. Yeah. So yeah, I feel the head is going to try to claim everything. Yeah, that doesn't mean the idea of stopping doing everything becomes another form of obsession with self. Yeah. So just this is this is a this isn't like getting a new cop on the beat. Yeah. Yeah. It's a disarming after a while, because that which you're having faith in is worthy of faith, the infinite. Yeah, it is. It just delivers the goods. And you'll be so assured of that by how many packages you received at your spiritual location. Yeah, there it is. It's calling another package is on the way. More gets revealed. See? Perfect. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Paul Rico Cruz had his hand up. Rico, come on in, man. It's always a pleasure to hear you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate your love and service. I didn't have a question. I just want to first thank Ryan for that question. That is an absolutely fantastic question. And as I was listening to Paul, I was asking myself, why do I have to pray? Because I do pray a lot. And I look, when I first got here, I was a no God baby. So the God idea wasn't attractive to me. And anybody who brought the God idea around me knew when they looked at me, that doesn't look like a great idea. We better get away from this guy. So I had to pray for the willingness to be willing, nothing else, because I was willing to do anything except the God idea. And that was a place for prayer for me that kept me praying for the willingness. The other thing is, if I go forward and say, okay, you people taught me how to live in an awakened state, well, then I couldn't get there without having to go through the process of removing the things that's blocking me from me, not from self, from me. How do I get to I am that I am unless I remove the things? Because there's so much shit blocking me from that I am. I didn't know how to do that. You guys showed me how to do that through this process. And when I remove the things that's blocking me from me, I like have a new pair of glasses. I had to pray through all of that. And I didn't want to. Like I said, they used to tease me. They said, there goes that no God baby. Because I did not want it to have anything to do with the God idea because of some experiences. So it just wasn't there for me. And 6 and 7 cracked me open. But I fast forward to today. There's a reason I pray to today. And it's not for people, places, things, times, and events. It's just so I can stay awake. Because if, as Paul says, if self can't get me out of self, I got to get some help. Where am I going to get that help? The only way I know so far is to pray to get me out of me so I could see a little further and a little clearer. And prayer has been that for me. And for this guy here to be praying every day, and I'm telling you, I was totally against the God idea, is not a reflection of me, but it's a reflection of that process you guys introduced me to. So when you said, why do I have to pray? I don't want to pray. First thing came to my mind is, who is it that doesn't want to pray?
Yes.
Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Rico. And you know, step 6 and 7 is sort of like a prayer. Yeah, because the prayer of recognition that something can do for you what you can't do for yourself. And then you take the revelations or the stuff that's being revealed to you about what you're not, let's call it self, to step 6 and 7, like to the recycling bin. But that would be an action prayer in a sense. You're there, you're the something is appearing that you have a recognition that it is part and parcel of what has defeated you in the past. You immediately bring it to step 6 and you say, I'm entirely ready, which is sort of like a prayer of admission. I'm entirely ready for this to be removed or reconfigured. Then you ask that power to do it. That's like a pantomime of a prayer. You're like a mime. You remember Marceau, whatever? It's like miming a prayer as an action. And that's 6 and 7. So 6 and 7 is a prayer-like action, tell you the truth, because you admit the powerlessness, and then what you see doesn't call you to arms. It calls you to the recycling bin, and you just put it in there, and you ask that power to take care of it. And just like, you know, my garbage people come on Wednesdays. When I put it out Tuesday night, I don't wake up. I don't stay up all night. Are they going to come? Are they not going to come? I'm not watching for them. I have a faith that they're going to pick up the garbage because why? Because they have. Yeah. Yeah. So faith. So 6 and 7 to me is the most active prayer, if you want to call it that, in a period of recovery, because when a lot of stuff starts getting revealed about how you have been defeated, seeing it new, not going over it like a forensic unit, but seeing the conception of it and then being able to put it into 6 and 7 is incredible. Yeah, because that energy is going to return. It's going to, just like when we used to, my experience of service was a lot of the time, maybe I was overly concerned about something for the whole week. Maybe, back then, the AIDS test in 1988 took 3 weeks to get back. Yeah, we're in San Francisco. So, and I used a lot of needles and shit like that. And so when I got sober, it became obvious that if I was going to try to go out with somebody, I'd have to know this first. Yeah, I mean, that little modicum of responsibility had returned. And so there I was waiting for the results. Yes. Now, where was I going with this thing? I just lost it. But first of all, I traveled a lot lighter through those 3 weeks because I had an assurance that I was in good hands. Yeah. Yes. By this. And so the power of steps 6 and 7 is really a culmination of all the effects the program has had on you. So when you state, I'm entirely ready, there's power behind that, because you realize this agreement is not transactional. It's a surrender. Yeah, it's a reliance on something greater than yourself. It's not making deals. So you're making a statement, hey, I'm entirely ready to have this undone, so to speak. And then you humbly ask that power, what is that but a prayer in a way, to remove it. So we're doing prayers, but that's like almost like a chore around the farm type prayer. Yeah. 6 and 7. It's very tactile, but it's a prayer, right? You're asking, you're asking the higher power to remove something or reconfigure it. So there's a prayer, but that to me is a real action. So, yeah.
I'm asking in 6 and 7 to the power or to the infinite to help me do something that in and of myself I can't do.
Definitely. It's a
That becomes,
it's not even a prayer that's said, it's a prayerful posture. You're in a posture of admittance of powerlessness and open to be driven by power. So it's a posture after a while. I don't say it anymore, but I stand in it, I am in that position. Yeah, which I think is a stronger form of prayer, to tell you the truth, much stronger. So yeah, prayer, just like everything else in AA, you'll get new and different ideas about what it is and what it ain't. Yeah. And it's not negating what it was or what it wasn't in the beginning. It'll just mature and change. Yeah. Yeah. Some people dancing is prayer, obviously. Some people writing is prayer. Some people painting is prayer. It's all prayer in a way. And I mean, it's healthy for the action figure because the head wants the action figure to be all there is. And for the action figure to honor something greater than itself brings out, if you don't mind, I went to India once to see this guy who I had heard about when I was young. So when I get a little older, I got this thing up my butt. I wanted to see this guy. So I went to India by myself to see this guy, Sai Baba. Sai Baba, he was a trip, whatever. But there was thousands of people there. And it was a giant, like, indoor-outdoor pavilion. And every day he would walk through it, like at 7:30 in the morning and 5:30, not say anything, but everyone would just be. And I was not into this guy that much, but I was into the event, yeah, because it was amazing. So he would walk through like these well-worn paths, and a lot of times I was sitting right on the curb when he walked by. And when he was looking at the other people on the other side, the faces of humans in devotion is beautiful. All those faces probably look the most beautiful they would ever look with this honoring of that which he represented. And there would be, I could see all these people with this unbelievable, man, it was great. I was just eating it up. It was so powerful. Yeah. And so some of this stuff, like devotion and shit like that, bring out the best in the action figure, really. Yeah. And it was wonderful to see that. I've never seen it. They were almost like they were baby faces. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And it didn't have to do with him or anything. It was the whole event of devotion just being poured out there. It was great. Yeah. And yeah. And some of us are devoted to recovery, you know. We've been sober a day at a time for a long time. Yeah. And that's a form of devotion, literally. And devoted to the agenda of AA in some form or another, based on the relief we've been given through this intervention of grace, whatever you want to call it, because it was clear no human power, including my own, could do it, because it didn't. Yeah. And it had a long time to fucking do it, and it didn't. Yeah. The old show just kept going on, and something intervened and put a stop to it that nothing else could. People, I got arrested and they wanted to stop me. Got run over by a car, 10 months in a hospital bed. That was a long pause, but it never stopped me. There was nothing that could fucking stop this thing that was driving me until something did. Now, a lot of my life is seeing the joy of that in hummingbirds and fucking waves and swimming in beautiful water. Yeah, it just triggers that same feeling. So don't starve the action figure based on an absolute idea. Yeah. The action figure is an expression and an observation. It can observe something has done for it what it couldn't do for itself. It can observe that. And then it can try to express how it feels about that. Yeah. And those expressions, sometimes they're crude, but that it's like a seed, that plant breaking through the sidewalk to get to the sun. Yeah. Who wants to step on that? Yeah. I think it's a joyous expression of something. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where people are here, but it was obvious to me something has done for me and others what we could not do for ourselves. Now, I don't like to give it a name or whatever, because I don't care. But a movement, uh, in my case, that came in all of a sudden and fucking struck this fucker sober. Yeah. And not only that, blew the circumstances of that day to bring me to an AA pro meeting that night to give me a way of life to stay sober. I mean, that could only be the breath of something. I don't want to call it a something, but yeah. Yeah, I think there's, like the jet stream, I think there's a grace stream in this dreaming. And I think AA has an access to that grace stream. I do. I really do. I've met a lot of spiritual groups. They usually have nicer customers than AA people, but the miracle of what's happened to some of us is amazing, really. So. Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Rico. I don't see any other hands, Paul, right now.
Well, we can start saying goodbye then. Yeah. Jacob, nice to see you. Yeah, you all right?
Yeah, all right.
Got your hair cut?
No, it's still there.
We got it up there. All right.
Good to see you, Paul.
Good to see you, Jacob.
Hey, and
Terry.
Alex says hi. Alex says hi, and she said to give her love to all the no ones.
All the no ones, yeah. Well,
Yeah, she's been working a lot, or else I know that she would make it.
oh, great. Well, you're lifetime members of Zen Bitch Lab. It doesn't matter attendance or no attendance.
Same thing.
Yeah, yeah. As long as you're attending to the day, you're a member, eh? Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
Terry. Yeah, you're welcome, Jacob. I like you anyway. Terry Bowling. Nice to meet you, Terry. John, Florida, as always. Marilyn in Tallahassee.
Great
Yeah.
word, grace stream. I love it.
Yes, well,
Thank you.
it's feeding us. Yeah, yeah. Kathleen in Pennsylvania, not Delaware. Axel. Ryan in Phoenix. Nice. Thank you, Ryan, for that share. Yeah. Remember, the head claiming it has nothing to do with you. It's mechanical. The conscious contact triggers the head, and then the head claims the contact. It's not going to stop doing that because you're not going to convince it to. It's a machine. If a machine was punching holes in, it would keep punching holes. No matter how much you tell it, it doesn't need to punch holes. It's mechanical. That's what it does. The claiming of our life by the conscious, the mental activity is mechanical. You weren't picked out. You weren't like specifically attacked. It just does what it does. Like a snake bites, yeah? It's best to learn the nature of the self and most importantly, see the nature of the self as foreign to your nature. And then learn about the nature of the self. And a lot of the guilt and shame you're carrying around is really rooted in things that were driven by self. Yeah. And it's time for it to be held accountable, not for you to be responsible. Yeah. So you start recognize what has defeated you from that which has not and never will be defeated, which is spirit. And now interest and attention is weighed more on the trusting the infinite rather than finite self. And that's the real relief. Yeah. Yeah. So self is foreign. The claiming of whatever you seem to be doing, it's claiming to be the one that's doing it. And it takes its form of a noun from claiming all the verbing of life. Spirit is not a noun. Spirit is a verb. Yeah. So the I am is not a noun. It's a verb. I am is something alive. Yeah. Something on. I am that I am. So the verb is a verb. The verb is not a noun. Yeah. The head has us as a noun. And this is very fucking confusing because something happens through us. The story is that we had a lot to do with it, when in most cases we had nothing to do with it. Yeah. If a Toyota has been driven to a bank and to assist a robbery, it never robbed the bank. It had nothing to do with it. No matter how many times it was used to drive to the bank, it's not the robber of the bank. Yes? We have been driven. We're not the driver. No matter how much we've been driven, it does not make us the driver. This is the relief that I feel is being kept from us by this act of being identified as the problem. I do. I mean, it kills me when people share after 40 years the guilt they have about something they did when they were out there. That just kills me. I mean, it's like the longest umbilical cord giving life to self. This idea of the guilt and shame based on shit that I didn't choose to do. I was driven to do. Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole other meeting. I go on, but we give all praise to that which has done for us what we couldn't do for ourselves, but we do not give any accountability to that which did through us shit we would never have done by ourselves. I do not believe that's a rare phenomena. I believe it's manufactured disguise. I do. I think the self disguises itself in us. That's why people who love to take inventories of others hate to take an inventory on themselves. Why is that? Yeah, because self doesn't want you to see your role in things because you'll see its role in things. Once you see its role in things, you're going to see its role in things. Yeah. Yeah. This isn't like you're shown the picture of the criminal and then you forget it every day. No, after a while, you see the picture of the criminal, you recognize it when it starts, you know, putting its arm around your shoulder and starts giving you fucking advice. You recognize it. Yeah. This isn't like, I'm serious. You'll get it. You'll get this. This thing should not be listened to. Yeah. So, well, all right. Let's say goodbye.
Hey, Paul, there's a hand that popped up. Terry from,
All right,
if
Terry.
if
Come
you
on
got
in.
time.
Yeah, sure.
Come on in, Terry.
Hey, guys. Thank you, Paul, for what you're doing. And I appreciate the everything, the meetings and all. I've been sober since '86, lived in 6 different areas and gone through a whole lot of stuff, you know. And there was the one fact you pointed out that there was no human power that could have relieved me from my alcoholism. You know, I was in the hospital dying dead. It was over, you know, and something happened. And that's an undeniable fact in my life, you know. One of the early things that I was struggling with was trying to understand the third step. And I remember sitting in a meeting at one of the clubs out here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And it came to me like a flash. It was like, if I can understand what God is, then that ain't God. You know, it's like that just made sense to me that if I could understand it, that was not God. And this peace came over me. And I was able to let go of everything as far as trying to figure that out, you know. And I would share that, and I would get a lot of just blank looks, you know, like maybe this guy's, you know, lost his marbles or whatever. So I don't share a lot, but I'll never forget that moment, you know, when I understood that the action figure, which I like that term, and I'm using it now occasionally. The action figure was trying to figure it out. There was no figuring it out for the action figure, but something figured out that there was no figuring it out and let me know, just like something got me sober. You know, it's the same principle going on. I had a very good sponsor. He's my third sponsor in, and he was explaining to me a lot of different things. And I won't get into that whole story, but one of the things he said is that you'll find that your life becomes your prayer. That your whole life becomes a prayer, and that's when the prayer is taken on to a different level and a different meaning.
Yes.
So that's all I got. Thanks.
Great.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, brother. Yeah. John Florida, as always, thank you. Michael Stacy, yes. Maryland, Tallahassee. We got a Florida contingency now. That's all right. Kathleen, Pennsylvania. Axel, Ryan, Phoenix, Rico. Joseph, he's out and about. Barbara E. Leah, oh, I haven't seen Leah in a while. Nice to see you, honey. Always a pleasure. You're vertical. I've met you horizontal when he first used to come to the meeting.
Yeah, it's been.
You had to take it laying down. It was too
Yeah,
much.
that's right. It was too overwhelming. I'm up right now, but traveling light, doing so well.
Oh, great.
Yeah, gonna start carving out time. But person, I listen to them, all the time.
I'm losing you. Can't hear you.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Not important.
Great to see you, honey. Yeah. Jacob, as always. Yep. Sean, yes. Oliver, Amy, Ben. We got Steve in San Diego, Roman, Mueller, James in Vancouver. Nice to meet you, James. I think that's about it. I lost the other page. Hey, yeah, thank you. And we're here at 4:30 today, 4:30 Pacific time, on the other topic, which is the non-duality aspect. So if you want to join us, and then all of the meetings are on event page, then Bitch Slap, and They all have the same number and there's no password. So we're usually, someone usually opens the meeting 5 or 10 minutes before. So, yeah, everyone's welcome. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you later.